right, it is what, February 28th, Mr. Kidda?
It is. Not the last day of February yet.
No, leap year. Happy leap year.
Yes, you too, sir. All right. I have a bunch of Power BI stuff this week and a couple other kind of small things. We got the Office app. What do you got?
I've got some Teams stuff, some GA stuff and roadmap-ish stuff going on with Teams, some stuff on the Intelligent Security Alliance, and that's kind of it for me. So I'm a little more focused on two kind of bigger things as opposed to a lot of little stuff.
Cool, man. All right, well, let's just go. So I have been spending a lot of time in the last 6 months or so talking to customers about Power BI Premium Pro, when to go to what, and really kind of explain those. I mean, people are adopting at really, really rapid pace. And it's just like getting people through and getting people turned on in an efficient way. One of the things that was previously a premium only feature was incremental refresh. Well, that is now in Pro. That is exciting, especially for people that have invested in things like E5. This brings more value to those folks. So incremental refresh, if you're not familiar or you don't recall, is the ability to take a large data set that you're going to process into Power BI. And if you need to do a refresh on that to bring in the latest data, you don't have to bring in the entire data set. So if you have, a data set that's like tens of gigs at the source, that can take a long time to process and it's just inefficient and unnecessary if only new data is changing. So this makes it really easy to set up incremental refresh to where you're only bringing in the latest so many days or however often that you need to bring in the data to make sure that you have all the latest and greatest stuff. So the fact that we're bringing this value to Pro users is a big win in my opinion, and I'm really happy about it.
Awesome.
So yeah. All right. Here's another one that's cool for premium users. Bring your own key is now GA. So some people either just like the warm fuzzy, and I know you have an opinion on this, Doug.
I do.
Of bringing your own key, and sometimes there are requirements to do it.
Yeah.
But regardless, if you're required or you just want to, you are now able to bring your own key for encryption in Power BI Premium.
It is a big deal when you need to have or only have certain issuing authorities as the approved process owners of key attestation from a regulatory standpoint.
Right.
So it's important to note it's rarely a technical control, it's a process control around key issuance because you're still using the same cryptographic strength to do it. But the question is, do you need an attested process that you've gone through governance, control, and review that comes from your issuing authority around revocation and management, not use, but revocation, management, and control. And Microsoft obviously provides that through our trust portal and our documents as to how we do HSM and key management and all the rest of the stuff. But if you've already gone through a key attestation process around, say, certain levels of data or anything, and we don't match what you're doing, or it would be a lot of work to go prove to your auditors that we're the right thing, this gets you right back into your wheelhouse of comfortable, attested key issuance. So it's really process management and compliance, right? Not technical data security.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy
about this because it just enables more scenarios for people with certain sensitivity and process requirements. So kudos.
The option's there. Today you're doing it via PowerShell, which is probably okay for most people, I would imagine. And I guess it's worth calling out that it really only applies to data sets that are using import mode. And to me, that's the only thing it really makes sense to be applying to.
Yeah, because if you're originating it within the...
Right. So it doesn't, I guess that, I actually do wonder, it doesn't call it out, and maybe it's in the documentation, so maybe I should look to see, because I immediately wonder, the only other type of data that we store aside from metadata about report definition and those kinds of things is the data that's imported via the data flows. So I actually don't know. That's a good question, maybe worth follow-up. And I only started wondering that now live, so I just don't know the answer to that. That's a good question. It does only call out data sets in import mode, so that's what I would assume, because it specifically calls that out. But to me, that's a maybe a worth checking into thing.
That would make sense, but I would imagine as they can, they'll expand it as the other products have over time.
I mean, this is like the 80%, 90% use case anyway.
Yeah,
so cool. All right. Moving on to the new and improved Power BI tab for Microsoft Teams. I think the biggest thing to call out here is the fact that you can now have conversations, right? in here. And I guess that wasn't there before. If you would have asked me, I would have thought that it was, but maybe not. But it doesn't matter. It's here now. So the new, and I checked some of my teams today that had Power BI reports, and it looks like it just showed up. So just a really nice, better integration with Power BI and Teams to build out that data culture. And this is like, I had this conversation with a customer just yesterday with concerns around having people crash out to different environments to do the reporting and analytics, and we talked about having Teams be that hub for work and having your work just be where it needs to be. So this goes a long way in building out that data culture and bringing Power BI into Teams. So go check out the new tab in Teams. This one's really cool. This is a kind of a big deal for refresh data sets. So in the past, we already had it to where if you're using a Kerberos constrained delegation data source, you could, with direct query, pass the credential of the user through. But now, if you're using a Kerberos with constrained delegation data source, you can have the dataset owner be the security context when you're doing refresh. So this is really cool. So it just is a matter of going and checking this box. Like I've said 3 times now, Kerberos with constrained delegation, that is the requirement. So not every data source is supported. All of those are in there in the documentation as far as which ones are there, but this is nice.
As a reminder, KCD is a very common pattern that we have across the Azure AD application proxy and other things, and so so this is a great and well-respected internal authentication, authorization, and delegation pattern. So your Azure AD team's going to know exactly what it is, how to audit it, how to monitor it, and so it's a known critter and is easily embraceable from an enterprise IT security and approach standpoint.
Yep. I mean, this would be the way to do it, right? If you're going to enable this feature. So happy to see this one and go check that one out. So I won't spend too much on this because I'm not sure. I don't think we have a huge developer audience, but we do have the Power BI APIs for .NET SDK 3. The implication here is that SDK 2 is immediately deprecated. We retired in 24 months, so definitely make that change over. I think we've just made some enhancements to the way that you interact with the API, making it easier to use, as well as dealing with credentials. So there's some new credential classes when you're dealing with like Windows or Basic or OAuth2, as well as just some encryption capabilities that are in the API. So definitely just go check out the SDK 3 update, which should be a pretty big one. This one is a much welcome update to the home screen in Power BI. I told you I had a lot of Power BI this week. You can now enable admins of Power BI or people that have been delegated rights to do so to promote content, including reports, dashboards, and apps on the home screen. So if you want to call out something in your org that people should check out, you can now do that. And the way that you do that is, again, through if you're a Power BI admin, but you can also go and give people this featured content setting in the tenant admins, in the Power BI tenant admin section, to specific people or specific groups to enable them to promote content, and it walks you through how to do that. And you can do that for dashboards, reports, or apps. So this is I think we did a pretty good job here of making this a pretty rich feature out of the gate. So I'm pretty excited about this one because, again, back to data culture and promoting content within an organization. This is a great way to surface things up to people as they're browsing their Power BI. All right, last one for Power BI is the February update of 2020. I mentioned incremental refresh for pro users a little bit ago. We are now, and I like how we're really starting to call out too, this is because of user voice. I think this was the one, I think this was the second most upvoted feature. The Power BI Pro incremental refresh. So this was not a new feature, right? This was bring this feature to this set of people. And user voice really made a big difference here for bringing that to the pro user. So don't undervalue your voice here. So one of the other ones that was really a high upvote on user voice was the hierarchical slicer. So I know a lot of people have been waiting a long time for this one. So you can see here, like, someone, if you have a cell phone category and you're able to pick either the top level or sub levels, this is a really nice way to interact with kind of more complex data from a hierarchical perspective. So definitely go check that one out. New updates to the ribbon, that continues to evolve. I think it's pretty safe to switch over at this point. You should probably my recommendation would be to start looking at that new ribbon, which would be enabling that preview feature, because it will feel pretty different to you out of the gate. It has a different kind of look and feel. Some of the things moved around a little bit. So it's probably time to start getting used to that if you want to turn that on. Because if you've been a Power BI desktop user for a number of years like me, it's kind of, someone moves your cheese, you want to get used to it sooner than later. So definitely go check that out. Some new Dask functions for finding first and non-blank values for measures, which is super useful. A bunch of new visuals. I'm not going to go through all of those. There's some really cool ones in there, though. Look at all these every freaking month. Look at all these.
If we did that, that would be the visual show, is all we would do.
Right. So I'm not going to do that. All right. So a template app. Doug, check this out. I don't know if you saw this, the M365 usage analytics.
I did. Yeah, it's
awesome?
cool.
This is really good. So
Yes.
check this out, like OneDrive users, SharePoint users, files, user counts, licenses applied. I think this is some really, really good work and pretty in-depth work. I don't know if you had a chance to play around with it and what you thought, but
I liked it. I think it solves for a lot of the challenges. We've done custom builds over the years. You know how I bring things in and do stuff.
Oh, yeah.
My only concern about it is its data horizon for how long we keep things, right?
Yep.
And so I think you're still going to need to, for longer retention trending or whatever else it is, because when we do like our corporate communications workshop with Corey Buzzle goes, if you look at that audit data, there's a lot of useful insights, but what if you want to trend that across 2 years to see more meaningful things? Then you're going to need to get the data in other places and do that stuff. So the only thing I would ask, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen from that team, although I think there is a user voice item on it out there, would be that you could attach it to like an Azure Log Analytics workspace and say, can I keep the data for longer if it's okay with me to do so?
Right.
But that being said, if that's my problem, we don't have a problem. Because you can always, and it does inspire you as to what can be done with the data and the kind of lenses that's under the covers. So I think it's a great tool, and I think everyone should be checking it out.
Yep, totally. I think that's really sound, sage advice. I think at the very least, it's a great inspiration and very useful information kind of out of the gate, and then here you can go do more. So
one more plug for it is that every time I come in, when I have people want to ask me what they're doing, I always say, well, how's your visibility as to current to state? Do you have like the desktop analytics turned on? Do you know the office analytics? Are you using these different things? Do you have that stuff? And everybody, they're making guesses as to what they can and should be doing with moving data around and user patterns and the rest of the stuff. And I think you should experiment across conclusions drawn from data. You shouldn't be actually guessing.
Right. Absolutely.
And so this is another lens that lets you get to those more actionable insights around content and data and everything else. Otherwise, what you'll end up with if you don't do a good job of this stuff is yet another place, yap, right? Yep. Not a consolidation of places and tools. You'll end up with just increasing fragmentation, which is not our goal. Our goal is to get you this beautiful modern collaboration platform and let you just kind of retire and migrate. So end of soapbox.
That's cool. Awesome. Love it. The other one I wanted to call out is there's some other stuff in here. Oh, enabling query diagnostics in Power BI Desktop if you're not an admin. Super helpful if you're not an admin. I like this one a lot. There's a lot of folks that have MicroStrategy in their environment from going back, 10 years or however long. We now have the GA MicroStrategy data connector. So if you have MicroStrategy in your environment, you're probably like super excited about this one because that should enable you to modernize and bring some things over. And check this one out, Doug.
I know, I saw that. I was very excited about that.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes, it is.
This one came on pretty quick. We're doing a bunch of stuff with Fire in Azure that's really exciting. And from
Teams and everywhere on top of it. It's really busting open that healthcare data, right?
Yeah. If you're in healthcare, you know what Fire is. I would assume, but this connector, this Fire connector in Power BI is exciting. I'm really happy to see this, and it's already GA. So check that out. And there's a bunch of other connectors that have been added recently too. But I'll let you go read the rest of that article. Real quick, moving over to Power Automate. I talked a few weeks back about the SAP ERP connector, so check this out. And this is just kind of a good state of the union on the state of connectors inside Power Automate. And I've gotten pretty good at calling it Power Automate now. I almost never call it Flow anymore, so I'm pretty happy with myself. But there's been a lot of, look at this, over 300 connectors now in Power Automate and Power Apps. So there's definitely, here's some ones that have shipped over the last few months. So like WebEx meetings, short links. Look at this, my company I used to work at, Knowledge Lake. So shout out to St. Louis company here. And just a bunch of really awesome connectors that have been added. So This is just Power Automate platform continues to mature and add more value because it's a network effect, right, with the connectors. So the more connectors there are, the more value there is to the platform.
Yep.
And just if you've not seen it, now's the time. Or if you have seen it, now's the time to maybe refresh yourself on the Power Apps and Power Automate governance and deployment white paper. I think it was first published, maybe a year and a half ago or so, and we published an update to it maybe in December. So definitely go check out that.
There are every other month workshops in Minneapolis on this, on deploying the COE toolkit. So you can get hands-on with Bart Sneary, who's one of the lead drivers of that initiative. So
awesome. Great. Cool. That's awesome. Shout out to Bart for that. And Doug, I don't know if you add this on.
Yeah, I got it in mine in the roll-up office.
Let's switch over to you, and then we'll talk about that because I love this app.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of Office 365 and Teams announcements. So we can cut over to me, maybe.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, so let's roll. So there's a lot. So speed round, people say I talk fast normally. Well, it's going to get worse. So as we come through on top of it, there is the new Office mobile application. If you've not been using it, it is rolled. It is GA worldwide for Android and iOS. It consolidates essentially your Word, Excel, and PowerPoint estate into and the file access. And it's got a lot of the cool Office Lens-like functionality blended into it. So so I love it. I don't know. I mean,
to me, the big thing was they really did a good job of understanding, like, what are people going to be doing from a core perspective on their mobile devices?
On their phone, yeah, exactly.
It's just like, hey, here's the things we know you're going to be doing on your phone. Just they're right here, right?
Things right there.
Lens, snapping the picture of the tables and putting into Excel. All of those things just right there.
All those little companion-y / quick review. I love the containerized but great user experience of the collision of my personal life with my, because I got all sorts of stuff. I've got home projects going on right now. I got some tickets to sporting events in a spreadsheet. I got all work stuff that I'm doing for budget things for my boss, and it's all in there and it's containerized and separated but unified for me. I am a fan.
No, it's awesome. I'm a big fan. It's really polished too and fast. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So just go use it. There's
and that commercial for it. I mean, like that commercial feels like a trailer for like a multi-million-dollar blockbuster movie.
It does, yeah, all sorts of good stuff going on. Now, I don't know if you saw that that they have. There was a couple other interesting ones that you have the starting next month. You're going to get updated comments feature in PowerPoint. So you can use the app mention for notifications for Discovery Edition. So you're getting some of those kind of things going on. There is also Visio for the web, and now allows you to create, edit, comment on drawings simultaneously with live co-authoring.
Whoa, very cool.
That one snuck past me. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Well, there you go. So so that's one of those ones where you go on top of it. There's a bunch of improvements on the speech to text. So so you can go check that out. More language support, better punctuation support, and a lot of that stuff. So they've been working on that on top of it. Cool. OneNote for Android supports dark mode. You know, I'm a Droid person, so I am super happy about this one on top of it. You also got the new Lasso tool and some of the new inking tools and stuff. So OneNote for Android got a nice little update on top of it for using things, which I was super happy about on top of it. So now Microsoft Search, right? So let's do a small second. So there's Azure Search, which then searches things that are loaded into Azure from a director set standpoint. And then there's Microsoft Search, and there's some nice partner ecosystems like BA has it and whatever. There's ecosystem partners that augment some of these things as well that are pretty cool. But for Microsoft Search, they committed to sort of an evolution that you're going to be able to go forward and do different things. So now you can create custom search result pages.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
It would be improper to say we've restored fast level functionality from the old fast engine for those who are SharePointy, right? But we are getting more and more search customization. Now that they've aligned up around the strategy, right? We're getting better tooling, tactics, and support on top of it. So so there you go.
Beautiful.
You also get to control a little bit of what's new features from within the Office desktop applications. So you get a little control over some of those kind of things. So a little more client control. The Fluid framework went from sort of tight preview into a little more pushed public preview. So if you remember that dynamic component interaction where you're seeing kind of the split screen here where someone's looking at like a table of data, and as they're editing it on one side, it's actually showing the live embedded co-authoring components behind the Fluid framework, which offers massive scale for live data updates and embedded components and and everything else. So if you have not played with the Fluid framework and you're a little developer inclined, you should check out the components. Before there was just this lightweight preview out there where you could sort of embed an Office component and share it to someone and kind of do this sort of the raw. It's getting more. So sign in with an organizational ID at the Fluid preview, and you can start checking out the new stuff on top of it. Yammer got some improvements in branding and e-discovery for networks in native mode. So some nice improvements to Yammer's compliancy initiative on top of it. And the new files uploaded are now stored in SharePoint. So you can get all the security telemetry around going on top of that. And I think a couple of things for enterprises. I don't know if you and I moved over to Edge exclusively. I don't need to use Chrome anymore.
Right.
I have had an amazing browser experience on top of it. I like it better because of the cross-device support with my organizational account, et cetera, et cetera. But I work here. If you are an enterprise and you're still having a fragmented browser story, Fast Track also added App Assure, which is the application assurance for running on Windows 10. So those supports are now offered, those kind of support services as part of Edge.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
If you need help getting Edge out to solve a blocker around an application compatibility from some old school app or whatever it is, because it has the full old school IE engine rendering ability inside of it, but you can get the security and protections of Edge without, compromising the security posture. You don't necessarily have to go remediate those old applications, although we really think you should. If you can't do it, you have that. And then also 365 now available from the new regional data centers in Germany. Yes. So there's also some geographic availability stuff on top of it.
That's great.
All right, we're not done, but wait, there's more. Speaking of, remember we bought Mover back in October?
Yes.
So Mover is now available worldwide.
Okay, that was fast.
So yeah, now there's one thing on here which I had not been paying attention to. I noticed this on a screenshot, and I admit I have not had a chance to do it. But it talks about, hey, here you can migrate all these different things, and coming over on top of it. Notice in the source connector list, are you noticing a particularly interesting one that I have now put center screen?
I see it. Yes, blob storage.
That might have been there before. And obviously there's a way to get competitive platforms and everything else in on top of it. But I have some fascinating things I can do with that. So I'm going to see if I can, so you think about the ability to enumerate, do some indexing, some vetting, some tiering of maybe your legacy file store data. You could then move it into Azure Blob and then have Mover ingest it intelligently with classification and Fabric into, there's things that can be done with this. So if this does what I think it does, there's going to be some episode where we're going to show off some cool stuff.
All right. Well, and you just mentioned things before, like Azure Search and cognitives and things like that, moving things over, maybe just doing more analytics on your documents as well.
Right, which could then enhance the metadata pipeline as you render them in to do intelligent classification, labeling, content types, retention labels. We might be able to get really clever with this through content inspection if we have things. Now we already have an estate of tools for the SharePoint migration toolkit that do some of those things, but if you're coming from the unwashed masses of map drives and NAS spaces, might be very interesting to do the Azure Blob as an interim, do that interrogation layer, and then see what we can do for inflation. I don't know what you can do, but I am cautiously optimistic.
Right. That's awesome.
Reminder, it's not currently in GCC. I'm sorry. Okay. I just figured I would precursor that before anybody gets going. Now, we did have one cool thing around the Intelligence Security Alliance for the Intelligence Security Association for integrations across all sorts of things. So RSA was showing NetWitness integration with it. So this is essentially that backend intelligence security fabric. We talked about the idea that we see all these events from within 365, the largest email collaboration platform on the planet, all the billions of authentications we see a day on top of it, from the dangerous places on the internet, the entire estate of Windows Update, those who participate in Windows Analytics, desktop analytics, Office analytics, and anonymize their signals of interest, right? We not, with that nice new structure that preserves privacy and those capabilities on top of it, and all that data goes into this. But we're not every product in the industry. So the Security Association allows that bidirectional signal intelligence into the fabric to go on top of it. And so you're seeing a whole bunch of announcements about more people participating in that stack, and an expanded ecosystem around the endpoint protections of Defender ATP. So bottom line, this is an amazing continued investment in signal sharing so that when there's smoke, we can determine if it's a fire and we can put the damn thing out.
Love it.
Yes. So if you've not been watching your security estate's integration to this, you should. This isn't like like obviously some of our products leverage this that we sell, but this particular one is about sharing data between the security estate products with an intelligent fabric in the middle that, yes, we're the custodians of, but you should look at it. There's a lot here to absorb and do stuff with.
That's great.
Right. So my last one is not a survey to tell us what you think, but the Teams February 2020 roundup released. So the new Outlook and Teams integrated experience is now available. Have you played with this at all or no?
Is this where I can send something to Teams from Outlook?
Yeah, let's go full screen on top of this, and they have kind of the component on top of it, right? So it's they got the share to Microsoft Teams animation sequence going on. So you've got the share to Teams button on top of it, and you can essentially do that quick fire into Teams, right? And so you can search and find the teams and channels, and then boom, it shows up within the team as it is. Now, obviously, historically, you could have done this by going over, finding the team, opening up. Yeah, I'm already done, right?
Which people had very little, like I was fine with it, but I think most people had very little patience for that.
No. Copy the link to the team after you right-clicked and said view email address and copy and go back to Outlook and hit paste. No, thank you.
It was not user-friendly. Yep.
So anyway, user-friendly integration, and that really does allow a lot more. If something landed over there just because either people had bad behaviors or it came externally, you have that. Targeted communications, awesome, right? So you can come in and have this stuff. Have you been playing around with this at all? So what do you need when you need to get a targeted group? You can say people have a specific tag. So you can say, hey, cashiers, boom, and it'll fire that message off.
No, I haven't. Honestly, that slipped past me. I'm not sure how that works.
It's the tagging.
That's awesome. Okay.
Well, you know what? Maybe like we'll get a little. I'll either find a mechanics video or something to try and put it in the show notes. But yeah, it's cool. So check that one out on top of it. There is the ability for a small to medium business with 5,000 users or fewer start with an org-wide team. So if you're a small to medium-sized business and you don't have the need for differentiation between an enterprise social platform and a collaboration platform, because maybe you're just not big enough for that delineation to matter. Although we still think it could matter to you for certain things around communities and stuff. You have those those dividing lines, but sometimes people go, well, I'm just not big enough to have that delineation. Okay, well, so here's some options around that. The files experience for Teams rolled out for the SharePoint driven file experience rolled out worldwide, which allows you to do that awesome, like also the visualization and rendering stuff they showed where you can have like those native document library configurations that are in there on top of it. GA of subtitles and live captions.
Awesome.
On top of it, wins. So you can store recordings in regional storage when stream's not available from a Go Local standpoint. So you can, so just a little more compliance boundaries around recordings and data and the rest of the stuff. You can manage the app catalog within the Teams admin center. Legal hold for Teams private channels is out there now on top of it. You get the communications compliance capabilities around inappropriate messaging, the rest of that kind of stuff. And then and for GCC High and DoD, we got the phone system editions as well as on top of it. For in apps and workflows, there's a new Power BI tab for Teams. I don't know if you checked that out at all, which is pretty slick.
I talked about it 10 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So these shows just run together. It's episode 126. I drove to Fargo and back yesterday, so I'm a little tired today, I admit. So long haul, I was training people on discovery methodologies. So yes, Todd just covered that. And I was opening my tabs while you were speaking. You busted me. I'm sorry. And so pin apps to the left rail. You didn't cover that one, did you? Pretty sure? No, didn't think so. All right, so you have that capability on top of it. So the intranet zone, I agree. Remember, I've been calling out some of those intranet zones from Cashman and McNulty about what they're doing for sort of their API integration. If you've not been paying attention to the intranet zone and the PNP stuff over there and the development, you really should. And then also for education, there's Qbot. Now for Teams, there are those, the App Accelerator Jumpstart, right? Mm-hmm. You gotta go check those out. We've called them out a couple of times. I spent some time with customers deploying one of them last week. I was blown away. And we're gonna do a little crack open the code and tweak it a little, but it got us about 90% of the way there for doing like a brokered Q&A fabric on top of it. So this expansion of Teams has legs, and we're gonna commit more workshop time out of Minneapolis to explore more open hackathon formats for customers to come in, deploy this stuff, and then get help tweaking it, because I think this is absolutely fascinating.
That's
So,
cool.
all right, so to round it up,
But
new stuff in Teams, new stuff across all of Office 365, new Office mobile applications, new security alliance integrations, and the GA of Mover. I'm sorry we didn't have more to talk about.
yeah, Mover with Blob. Yeah.
That was a huge week. Well, it was almost 2 weeks, wasn't it? But this is really only the stuff from the last week that
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
It was a lot of stuff, and it's 11 o'clock, which means that's an Office Flash Friday. Todd, you got any wrap-up comments for us?
Not aside from the fact that I hope everyone has a great weekend. That's it.
Yes, everyone have a great weekend. Hope the weather is good wherever you are. It's going to be into the 40s in Minneapolis, which means it's time for shorts and t-shirts in Minneapolis.
That's right.
So we'll get out our beach chairs and enjoy the weekend. Be safe wherever you are. Todd, you and I are on next week.
I think so. Yeah.
And then the week after we're traveling, so we'll see. Maybe we can do a pre-record live from campus.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be kind of fun. We'll probably do that. We'll just kind of do it on that. Maybe post it a little day early with.
Maybe we can find an ironing board to do the show on.
Yeah. And for those who remember, we did it on a 2 Surface Go's and an ironing board, using Open Broadcaster with Teams. So we will repeat our crazy Skunkworks show. And until then, y'all take care, and we'll see you soon.
Have a good one.